You're listening to Top Line Toronto with Nick Lyne, Brady Ricketts, and Jordan Voth.
Welcome back to another Running of the Bulls, the Top Line Toronto podcast. Today, as always, I am joined by my good man, Mr. Jordan Voth, and Mr. Producer Mikey. Jordan, how are we doing today?
I'm all right. Sorry, I thought I heard Mikey there for a second. Just a sleepy week, only one game to talk about, not a whole lot going on. Just pulling a little Walt Disney here on camera. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's weird, even when the Leafs don't play, they are really the center of the universe, and everything revolves around the Leafs. Not even Taylor Swift can steal their shine. Yeah, one game to talk about, which is crazy. So I don't think we're going to take up too much of your Sunday here, but a lot of news, a whole bunch of stuff. Some stuff that I said last week should happen happened. Alex Nylander is a Leaf.
Vothstradamus.
Yeah, and we got some LTIR news. We got the list of defense pairings and how good McCabe and Tanev have been. We got whole bunch of stuff. What did you see this week? How did you enjoy this week?
Well, it's kind of crazy, like you said. Even with just one game, they always seem to find a way to make the headlines, and the stories around the NHL front and center come clean out of the Mecca in Toronto, Ontario. But before we get into those, why don't we knock out the one game that we had on the schedule this week against the Vegas Golden Knights? I know that when the game was being played, we were sending some texts. You very much said, like, this team has plenty of excuses to lose this one, and I can't even fault them for it, which is kind of a change of tune. How you go about it.
Dude, I was ready to make some excuses for the boys in blue. I watched it, and I'm just like, okay, like, who are we missing now? Like, Matthews is out still. Like, there's all the excuses in the world for them to lose that game, and I sat down, like, kind of ready to just be like, okay,
only one cheek on the couch in case you just need to get up and do something better with your time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was ready for them to lose this game and be okay with it. And I'll be honest, like, that was like probably one of the best games I've seen this team play. Like, they weren't the better team. Like, they were not even close. Like, and that's fair, but they showed resilience. They showed character. And how many times have Leafs fans been begging for this team to go out and show character like that and a gutsy win like that? It was incredible to watch. And Steven Lorentz referencing Tim Brent.
I might have missed that. That makes a lot of sense why I saw, like, some Tim Brent discourse on Twitter, and
that's why you saw it.
I saw the clip of him blocking a bunch of shots. That makes a ton of sense.
Give this man a lifetime contract. Like, what a reference. Like, I generally have a lot of fun Leafs references. That's crazy.
I mean, the guy, when he signed, basically spoke about how much his old man was bleeding blue from the time he was a kid. Yeah. But the Leafs do come out of the Vegas Golden Knights game with a 3-0 shutout. The first game of the season for the newly recalled on an emergency, might I add, Fraser Minten. First career NHL game for Nikita Grebyonkin, who, like, I mean, I love this guy. He's immediately endeared himself to a ton of fans with his interviews so far. I mean, granted, he has one of the most limited vocabularies I think I've come across out of a rookie out of Russia so far. But he's got some absolute heat already. The first one, Leafs give me a chance. I go work, help team win. Not win, I not enjoy. Win today, I enjoy. It's
forecheck, back check, paycheck.
Forecheck, back. Yeah, so that's a bit of a longer quote. He goes, I like hard hockey. Team like hard hockey. It's chip nice, back check, yep. Team speak me, back check, forecheck, and paycheck. I mean, I love this guy. We see so many players in a lot of other sports. Baseball is the first one that really comes to mind. that players who are not fluent in English at all always have translators with them to help with the media questions. I don't understand why the NHL doesn't do it more. Like, we even got a little sneak peek or a little insider on John Tortorella was speaking to whatever the intermission broadcast was about how they handle Matvei Michkov, especially his first year, and he says that like once or twice a week they bring in a translator to like do fundamental breakdown stuff with him, which I'm kind of shocked that they don't have someone on staff for him.
Well, that's why that's why the Leafs employ Nick Antropov.
Yes, I forgot about that actually. But to not have, especially like I don't understand in the NHL wise for especially when they have like star players. A lot of their words get a bit more scrutinized in the media or taken with a bit more of a grain of salt for headlines and stuff like that. So I'm kind of surprised that they don't have something like that. But overall, Nikita Grebyonkin, with how little grasp of the English language he has thus far, cracking jokes in English is quite impressive for him to not really speak it at all. And it kind of just shows a bit more personality we see out of guys who come out of the fucking OHL.
Well, it's just, you know what American. Else? It's you know, being a bit of a gamer in that respect. Like, if you asked me to do an interview in a language I don't speak, that I have maybe 25 words in, I wouldn't necessarily want to do it. Like, think about how much attention is on you in those moments. Like, it's such a show of good character and that kind of stuff. But more than that, like, and this should have been a penalty, but that, like, taking a run at Shea Theodore like that in your first NHL game, like, I'm going to go and absolutely paste this guy through the glass. Like, and for the Vegas fans listening, if you have any, that is a penalty. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that's clean.
Absolutely.
But like, just the fortitude, the moxie to do that is awesome. It's something that will endear yourself really, really quick to Leafs fans. Like, here's a guy who, like, in his first game barely speaks the language. I'm going to go out and just absolutely paste an NHL vet like Shea Theodore like that. He was awesome. He was around the puck. He had a great game. Like, he could have easily had his first goal on Wednesday night too.
He had a couple good looks. You're exactly
but
right.
obviously the goal scoring comes from Fraser Minten, who ties Uri Slavkovsky for goals on the season on a beautiful, beautiful pass from William Nylander. Nice finish. And the Minten train is on the tracks.
It's off and running. Like, I thought the Leafs, if they weren't, like you're saying, they weren't the best team on the ice against Vegas, but I thought they did play a really impressive 60 minutes for what they had there. I thought the defense and Joseph Woll especially were really great in that one. Kind of a backbone that any game that you only have to score one goal to win a game, you're going to be in a better position than not. And I feel like almost kind of like a broken record when I'm talking about the goaltending and the defense so far this year. We saw, I can't remember who tweeted. It might have been Jay Fresh. So far, the Tanev, Jake McCabe, and Chris Tanev on expected goals against on 5-on-5 right now, they're the best in the league. Granted, they don't have the same level of minutes that are played, I think, by the second and third behind them, but it's impressive stuff to see.
Riley and OEL are top 10 or 10th, I think.
So that goes to show too, like OEL and Morgan Riley have been playing great together too. And I honestly didn't expect that when that pairing was first kind of written in on first couple practices. But I think that goes to speak about how maybe OEL has redefined his game since being bought out by Vancouver, maybe more so than the steps Morgan Riley has made, which I think he's played great this season. But I think OEL has kind of had a bit of a resurgence since his time in Florida. Which is awesome because now we get to reap those benefits as well. One little fun fact is, so Joseph Woll gets a shutout in this game. It is very close to being 3 years to the day that he earned his very first career NHL shutout, which I believe was against the Islanders.
Well, shutting out the Islanders isn't...
Not in the Lou Lamoriello era. Yeah, not that hard.
No.
But in this game as well, we do get another addition to the Leafs injury report. a hit from fellow Manitoban Zach Whitecloud on Matthew Knies. This hit was a hot topic of discussion on the intermission panels, on Twitter itself.
Yeah,
Spit and Chicklets gets involved in it. Like, it almost kind of feels
everybody.
like, especially coming off the recent suspension of Ryan Reeves for his illegal check to the head of Darnell Nurse, like, to get into it any further, I feel it's kind of like kicking a dead horse. I'm almost sick of it at this point. I'll leave it like at this, the way I saw it. I thought it was a borderline hit. It doesn't get called in the ice. It doesn't get any supplemental discipline. I think if that call is made on the ice, though, I don't think it gets a crazy amount of ridicule.
No.
Especially when we saw the play last night that got Quinn Hughes ejected for his, I think they call it a boarding against Josh Norris.
That was
the
crazy.
Sens last night. Yeah. So, love to get your thought on a couple of those points.
So, in the moment, I thought it was a bad hit, and I think it's on the line. But I think what a lot of people are missing is that very recently they did change some of the wording in Rule 48. And so
Rule
now
48 is what?
And Rule 48 means that, what is it now? It's the head can't be the main point of contact. It used to be principal point. They've changed that wording around a little bit now. So they've kind of obfuscated that a little bit. And so a hit like the one on Knies, you could flip a coin and kind of go either way. I think the injury is unfortunate. It's a huge blow to the Leafs. Like, without Matthew Knies now, they're missing 2/3 of their top line.
Yep. And at this point, we're basically dressing
in addition to two other centers.
Forwards. Yep.
Like, they have one center and 2/3 of their top line are gone.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. But no, as for the hit, I think it probably should have been a penalty on the ice. No supplemental discipline, which I think is probably the right call. But you know what is frustrating is that you see the game flare up after, right? You see that by the officials not really handling that situation in the most optimal way, you see the game flare up. OEL gets into it. John Tavares gets into it. A bunch of guys, like the game flares up really big after that moment because they feel like the refs didn't handle the incident well, right?
Yeah,
and so
100%.
players are going to take that into their own hands, and you can't blame them. Like, that's any team will do that. So I think probably what should have happened was there should have been a penalty on the play.
At least make it even on that. Like, call a 2-minute hit for a legal check to the head.
At least make it so the Leafs aren't killing a penalty out of it.
Exactly.
Are you joking? Like, like have some sort of pulse on what just happened here. Like, what the hell are you looking at that happens and the result out of it is the Leafs are killing a penalty? Like, that's probably the most enraging thing. It's not so much that's a 5, it's a suspension. Like, I don't really care if they suspend Whitecloud. Like, we played him last night. The next game they'd be missing him. That doesn't do any justice for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, who gives a shit?
No.
But out of that situation, let's not mince words here. Refs manage games. Make this situation make a lick of sense, please. For the love of God.
Shout out to Tim Peel on that, by the way, too. Game management king.
Yeah, that guy's a clown.
Yep. But so that was like really the main point of contention that came from that Vegas game. Which kind of sucks because, like, I thought it was a really great introduction to what we might see moving forward in the next couple of games with Fraser Minten and Nikita Grebyonkin. But kind of get overshadowed by a 50-50 hit, in my opinion. Kind of stunk. But that was not the end of the headlines in Leafland. We got even less clarity on the Auston Matthews situation besides what his travel plans were. It was announced that he was in Munich, Germany, getting treatment from a doctor. He missed. I don't know what's going on there. Auston Matthews, I think, needs to talk to his travel agent on that one. He missed Oktoberfest by about a month. But in my honest opinion, I think it's probably a doctor that he came across in his time when he was playing in Zurich for the one season before he got drafted. Like, that seems like the pretty obvious connection to me. especially when they're saying it's unrelated to the wrist surgery that he had previously. So I'm not, like I said, we don't have a ton of clarity on what's going on there. He's back now. He's already skating. He's expected to be in the lineup in the Leafs' next game against Florida. At least that's what we've heard from Brad Treliving. But yeah, like, I don't know. For all we know, this guy could come out sporting a new hairline. Right?
This situation infuriates me. Okay, so...
Yeah. Imagine being a fantasy owner right now and him being labeled day-to-day. Well, I guess he's on IR now, technically, but, like, imagine. Like, no one gives a shit about your fantasy team, but, like, stupid.
This situation is enraging. Yeah. Okay, so the last game he played was the Minnesota game, right? I believe that was the last one.
I can't remember at this point. I believe you're right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the last one. So he plays that game. There's no apparent injury in any of the games prior. We would have seen it already. Somebody would have clipped it. We would have caught that already, that here's where he got hurt. None of that seems to be the case. They say they're keeping him out because he's dealing with something. It's minor. It's day-to-day. Okay. When was that mini game now? Like 3 fucking weeks ago?
It was after the Jets one.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Like 3-4 fucking weeks ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So clearly not day-to-day if he's missing 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And how many players are day-to-day that travel overseas, internationally, direct flight, his quote. How many players do that? And the Leafs, okay, so we learned that this is something that's been bothering him from the start of training camp.
Yeah.
Okay, so keep him out. It's what are you doing?
Yeah.
So he's had this issue since training camp. Didn't get better, kept bothering him. They kept playing him while he went on a really bad 30-goal pace. And then they take him out. They say it's day-to-day. He's just dealing with it. But then he flies to fucking Germany.
Dude, this reminds me so much. Like, this is what... I don't know why.
What is this?
Do you know much about the Mayor Eric Adams stuff with Turkish Airlines?
No.
Oh, man. It's kind of even adds to the joke that I had about the hairline stuff. Is that Mayor, if I'm not wrong, Eric Adams is in a lot of hot water for always taking or getting like a deal with Turkish airline flights as being the mayor of New York. And no matter where he flew, he always flew to Istanbul. And his saying was first flight is always to Istanbul.
I think I saw this on Last Week Tonight.
Yeah. So you go the joke about direct flight to Munich. I was like, no. Especially with the hairline, first flight's always to Istanbul.
What the hell is this?
I got no idea. It's the most cryptic fucking injury report and treatment schedule anything I think I've come across. And like even the Kyle Dubas regime was always super secretive about what was going on behind the scenes. Like, we didn't know about the Ryan O'Reilly trade until Elliot Friedman tweeted out 30 seconds before the Leafs PR did. Like, that team for the last I don't even know, since the Lou Lamoriello era really has had this shroud, this veil of secrecy that we don't know what's going on, any type of injury or trade negotiations, anything, which I kind of appreciate. But at the same time, when it's your star player like Auston Matthews, the captain of your team, you definitely want to know what the fuck is going on.
Honestly, it's not even so much the transparency with the fans. It's how stupid you appear. Like I'm worried at how they're handling this, because if you have a problem in training camp, that was September.
We will say the players, I think in their contracts, they're absolutely entitled to get a second opinion to a doctor if they're choosing. And if, like I said, if Matthews ran into this doctor in his time in Zurich and trusts him, I can't blame the guy either, just to double, like, make sure.
No, that's totally fine. It's not, oh, Matthews should only be treated by this doctor and whatever, but it's just, it's the appearance of gross incompetence that bugs me. It's not so much that, like, if they came out and said he's going to be out for a month, okay. Or if he didn't start training camp and they said something's bothering him and we'll update you when we have something, I'd say, okay, That's fine. And I understand you don't want to reveal what it is. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's the appearance of incompetence. Something's been bothering him since training camp, but we just kind of like, whatever, just go out there and give it your best. Okay, he does that. And his best is clearly not at what we normally expect from him. And 3 weeks into the season, the Athletic's writing articles about how he's only on pace for 30 goals and what's going on. That's not fair to him. That's not good for the Leafs. Who's that good for? Nobody. Opposing teams, maybe. And then all of a sudden, he's day-to-day. And then he's flying to Germany. Like, day-to-day means that any day he could be better and playing the next day. If he's flying to Germany, he's not playing the next day. And it's the appearance. It's not any of these things. It's the appearance of incompetence. That bugs me. You're the Toronto Maple Leafs. You have a franchise player, the best goal scorer your organization's ever had in its 100-year history, which is kind of a damning indictment on your team through its 100 years, but whatever, we'll set that aside. You cannot handle situations like that. If something's bothering him, if something isn't working, if he's hurt, deal with it. And you don't have to tell me that he has a broken wrist or a concussion. I get it. I get the logic of not revealing those injuries. That's fine. It's as a result of all this, I just look at you and go, like, if this guy had a bone sticking out of his arm, what would you do? Would you be like, oh, he's like week to week, or I don't know. We'll see. He might go out and play tonight, but he might be week to week. We might send him to Timbuktu for some more hairline procedures. It's just ridiculous. No, I've never seen this before.
No, and that even kind of lends itself even to what we saw at a David Kampf situation too. Like, I think that he was only really held out initially for maintenance, and now he's on LTIR, whether that's for like a legitimate injury or just getting cap space so they can field a roster. I don't know.
You know what that is? LTIR backwards stands for Robidaw Island Temporary Layover. That's what that is. I bet you they've tried to trade that $2.5 million cap hit, and they don't have takers. They're injured. They're banged up. They need Minten. They need Grebyonkin. They need Alex Nylander, like I said last week. And what do you want to do with David Kampf and his $2.5 million cap hit when he's producing? Has he scored yet this year?
Who's that? Sorry, I missed
Kampf.
that. I don't think so.
Okay,
I'll give that a quick look up.
Like, that's, it's tough when you've got Max Domi and David Kampf eating up like over $5 million of cap space. They haven't produced a goal yet, and it's almost December.
Yeah.
Kind of go back to last week, but
David Kampf, as the NHL.com loads extremely slowly. In 18 games played so far this season, has 0 goals, 3 assists, and is a -2.
Like, oh boy.
Let it out.
That hurts. That hurt, like,
brother.
Dude. Like, I feel like we're going in circles here, because last week I came on here and said, like, the scoring is just so badly, like, it's not good. Like, they need more goals. That's a temporary layover on Robidaw Island. You can't pay a guy $2.5 million to do what David Kampf's doing. Like, I would rather, and like, this is another thing that I think we're gonna talk about as it progresses here with these injuries, is that this team might be better with Grebyonkin and Minten in the lineup and Reeves and Kampf not in the lineup. Like, Ryan Reeves isn't doing the things that you pay him to do, and he's 1.3. Like, you can get some cap savings. I
don't disagree. I don't disagree. Like, I'm even on the fence of, like, if a guy is 70% healthy, how much better is he than a guy not playing right now on the Leafs, but taking a significant role in the Marlies is close to 100%. I don't know.
Yeah. That was the situation with Hyman a lot of the time when he was with the Leafs, is that they were always sending him out there at like 70%.
Yeah. Who would have thought? Maybe we always had 50-goal scorer in Hyman.
We just never played him at 100%, which is, again, it's the appearance of incompetence, and that's cause for concern.
Even if it's not incompetence, it's like an aura of panic that we don't trust the next guy up, which I don't necessarily think is a great organizational mindset to have.
No.
I think it's kind of damning your cupboard. But what I think the Leafs actually do have quite a bit of is guys who aren't stars but are definitely serviceable players who can definitely put a Band-Aid on, not necessarily a bullet hole, but, they can be a stitch on a gaping wound for a little bit.
Yeah. And honestly, like if this D-core takes on any injuries, like I don't see the harm in putting Topi Niemela up for a game.
Or Marshall Rafai, who had a great preseason as well.
Yeah. I mean, Rafai has gotten in games with the Leafs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I wouldn't
Myers
be opposed
is back
to it.
off his conditioning loan too. So,
Yep.
Like I feel like the Leafs on the back end are in an okay spot. Like what we're seeing right now is kind of the polar opposite we saw last year, where it was the defense that was really injured and had some suspensions with the Morgan Riley one. And like we had guys like I think it was last year, might have been even the year before, but we had like brothers like Philip Kral playing significant minutes and playing well, right? And I think you're
forgetting one thing here about last year's Leafs is that offense was carried by their big four. Like the first 2 games, Matthews had 6 goals.
Yes.
Like it wasn't a balanced scoring attack. It was those 4 guys going ham.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to what we were talking about a little bit before the show, where we were discussing the Canadians, but you can have 2 of 3 elements of your game working, whether that's offense or goaltending, offense and defense, with your goaltending kind of being middling.
Any 2 of 3.
Any 2 of 3, you can probably find a modicum of success in the day-to-day and the regular season of winning games. It's when you only have 1 of 3 or you need 2 of 3 to succeed in the playoffs that you really find that you got you got no good cards in your hand, right? But yeah. So, but what's going on right now, I think, is sustainable as long as the offense manages to keep healthy at the moment. So we got more news as well on the Cal Yarncroke situation. He now has undergone sports hernia surgery and has been listed as month to month as well. That one was less of a surprise. We kind of knew that he was still dealing with an injury, and like they even weren't talking about him being day to day or week to week or month to month. They didn't really set a hard timeline on him.
They mentioned that he had a setback as well.
Yes.
Didn't they?
Yeah. I think so. But now we know exactly what it is. He had to get surgery, get that cleaned up. Hopefully that's going to be kind of like a deadline acquisition for the Leafs, because I think Cal Yarncroke's he's not going to be in your top 6, but I think in the middle 6, he fits in quite nicely. And he's a good piece. Yeah.
Speaking of acquisitions.
Yeah, we now have Alex Nylander, contractually a Toronto Maple Leaf, playing alongside William Nylander. Yet to see if he's going to be a line mate of him, but he is absolutely a teammate of him. And you were most definitely speaking the truth on this one, trying to get it into reality. So props
dude, look at his stat line at the end of last season. Like this guy was playing like a legitimate top 6 NHL player. He plays a little bit with the Marlies, crushes it the entire time. Looks great. The Leafs, he's what the Leafs need. Like any sort of chip like that you can get. Like even with Nick Robertson, like it's frustrating watching it not go in for him. But like you need to keep making small bets like this on guys like this, because something's going to hit somewhere and it's going to provide you that scoring punch that you so badly need right now outside of your big 4.
Yeah.
Man, watching that blueprint video of them though, like just awesome. I love brothers.
Kick out of Will too, going talking about he's getting his kitchen remodeled he's getting his house remodeled when
he's looking at taps
at the moment. So he's looking at taps when he got the news his brother was signed. I love him to death, man. I thought it was the funniest thing ever.
Just a single guy in his 20s looking at some taps.
With his dad. All about interior design. Like, it's awesome. He's such a freak, man.
I love it. I hope it goes really well. But there is another news item on the acquisition end of things that kind of flared up over the last day or two.
And I think it speaks again to what you've kind of been hollering about more or less over the last couple of weeks about what the Leafs need to get to really move forward. And that is an addition to your top six.
Yeah.
And this is a very much a scenario where we may have to go back to go forward. And it is the Nazem Kadri question. Your thoughts?
Sign me up. Straight into my veins. I've got a signed Nazem Kadri Leafs jersey.
A lot more Nazem Kadri clips on my timeline of like him in the playoffs, especially in that Capitals series, and even some of the Bruins ones, and going head to head against McDavid in the regular season stuff. And I am jacked at the potential possibility to bring this brother back to home.
I've got the same red mist. I've got the same red mist that he gets in the first round. Like, I don't care what the logic is, just give it to me.
Me angry raw.
I just read his book. It's not the best written book I've ever read, but he is Nazem Kadri. I wasn't going into it expecting a ton. Just hook it straight into my veins. I looked at his stat line for this year. He's got 10 points in 20 or 21 games. So, but on a bad Calgary team, just put him in on this roster, and that makes such a huge improvement. I think it provides you some of the grit that they're always after, provides you some of the scoring you desperately need, gives you some Stanley Cup pedigree on the bench. Just sign me up. And if you can, whatever it takes, just get it done.
I will never, ever, ever go against getting another brother in blue back, another hometown guy like Nazem Kadri. I was so upset. Like, I understood why he was traded initially.
Yep.
I wasn't pumped about it because, like, that's my guy. But, oh, man, so good.
Even at that last season he had with the Leafs, like, he kind of had a down year playing third-line center, like, not a very prominent role. But I remember going into that season thinking, like, man, you've got Matthews, Tavares, Kadri down the middle. Like, that has to be the best 1 through 3 center group in the league. And, yeah, he got suspended again. And then he got suspended again, like people in Colorado forget because they won a cup. But he got suspended in the first round with the Avs, too. I just don't care.
I forgot about that.
Just sign me up. Sign me up for Nazem Kadri coming back to the Leafs. I'd love to see it. I think it would solve some problems for them. And honestly, like, for Calgary, like, that's probably a great way to start turning the page on the next era.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. So now, we only had the one game this week. Now we get to kind of talk to the week of the head.
What do we got?
We've got Utah tonight. We kind of touched on that a little bit last week. On paper, probably one the Leafs have a decent chance of winning. I don't quite know at this point because this is before we had more or less clarity on injury stuff. This is before the Matt Knies injury. We've kind of got a bit of a blueprint in how they can play off the Vegas one. I think if they have another showing like they did in Vegas, like, I don't see why this team can't pull out another win. But, I still like the Leafs in this one.
I think because the Leafs decided not to use their excuse I had for them on Wednesday, I'm going to give them their excuse for this one. I think they might be a little bit on the tired side, and I could see them dropping this game. If you could give me a nice moment like Grebyonkin's first goal, I'll give you the excuse that they haven't played since Wednesday and they're rusty.
Yeah.
I'll give them an excuse for this one. Like, they made me a happy camper on Wednesday. Utah's got some really nice pieces, like Clayton Kellers,
pieces for sure.
Awesome. Dylan Guenther.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, he's really good too. That's a team that's better than sometimes I think we look at Utah and we think, oh, they're the Yotes, but like, no, like, that's a much improved team.
Yeah.
Vejmelka can steal a game against anybody. So, I think I'll take Utah on that one, but not in any way that's going to make me angry. If they don't show up and show an effort, I guess I'd be frustrated. I'd like to see Nikita Grebyonkin pot his first one, and I'll give you the excuse that you haven't been on the ice since Wednesday.
Yeah. And then we have 2 divisional games coming up on Wednesday and Saturday. First one's in Florida, which is also expected Auston Matthews return. And then we have Tampa Bay on Saturday. Me personally, I don't really know what to expect out of those. Like, this team's
Florida got hosed last night.
Oh, did they?
7-4 to the Avs. They gave up 7 goals.
Wow. But like we've even been talking about the last couple of weeks, like this team at the moment is so hard to handicap. Yeah. I have no clue what to expect out of them. Like I'd say if they get 2 out of possible 4 points in that one, I'll call that a win.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, who knows? I mean, Wednesday might roll around and Auston Matthews is in New Zealand. We have no idea. Like, he might. Like, honestly, here's the worst part is that, like, when they announced that he went to Germany, I thought that, like, he had, like, cancer or something. You know?
I hope it's not.
No, I hope not, too. I don't hope that on anybody. But, like, and I understand, again, you have to be transparent. Or you can't be transparent with what the nature of the injury is. But, like, just, yeah, it's odd. I have a hard time seeing them winning either of those two. Like, if Matthews comes back, maybe they got a shot, but, like, they're missing 2/3 of their top line if he doesn't.
Yeah, I know.
They're missing 2 centers even if he does.
It's so gross, man. I'm like, it's fun to watch because, like, you're getting to see some increased roles and minutes of guys that you really wouldn't expect to see, and some of them are definitely like taking the opportunity and running with it. But at the same time, you're like, man, I want to see my team at the way that it's supposed to be constructed at the best it can possibly be.
Yeah. So
right?
I could see them dropping both of those, and honestly, like, those are 2 teams that are good teams, and if they lose those games because they're just so banged up, like, I hate when the Leafs make excuses. I've been on this show talking about the excuses they make. I don't like to hear it. It's tiring. But at some point, you know, if all 4 wheels fall off, you're not going anywhere. And I think we're really close to that point with them. And I'm willing to just accept that, like, yeah, you can't win with like 3 centers out.
No. But we do get some shiny spots. You know, we are currently first in the Atlantic Division, which, the way sometimes we talk about this team, you'd think they were 8th. And we do have a game in hand on Florida coming up tonight. So I think a win tonight goes a long way, and kind of, like, there's definitely no panic right now. The Atlantic Division is clearly the best in the league at the moment. Actually, the Metropolitan's not that bad either. And the Central. Jesus. Everyone but the Pacific's. Actually, the Atlantic's the worst one in terms of points. Anyways, forget everything I say. We're not in a mode of panic right now, so even if they're able to get the win against Utah tonight and pick up 204 with the injuries that we do have right now on the front end, take it and run. Get these guys healthy. Keep it chugging.
Absolutely.
All right, so thank you everyone for coming by today, checking us out. I very much look forward to talking about this team on next Sunday and seeing the new headlines and storylines of what happened this week, because it is always an absolute roller coaster. Walter, thank you so much for joining me today. Producer Mikey, thank you as always. And see you next time.
Thank you, Mikey. Thank you, Ricketts. Thank you all. You guys have a good week.
This has been a Top Line Media production.